Welcome to this Innate Secrets podcast, in which we're going to look at the journey of life, the journey of your life. This is a place where those who suspect they're innately wise, brilliant and powerful come to learn how to transform their lives, one cognition, one realization, and one blinding flash of the obvious at a time. We are the innovators, the record breakers, the world makers and creators of all kinds. We supersede the suppressive worldview of mass ignorance and awaken the strength within. We are waking up to our innate secrets. My name is Dr. Mark Postles, and welcome to the Innate Secrets podcast. Have you ever noticed that in the busyness of your life and the importance of the things that you're doing, that sometimes you get so enraptured in the moment and so dependent on an outcome in the moment that it seems like the world's going to end if you don't get the outcome. And yet often we reflect on it and we say, well, that really wasn't that important. But at the moment it seemed to be. And so what is this perception of sometimes things are really, really important, and other times we can reflect and see that it's, just one of those things that didn't quite work out, and this too will pass and there'll be other opportunities. And so this is the concept of the journey. So let's look at your life from the 30,000 foot view of you came into this life in a certain form, in a certain environment of a certain heredity, and you encounter certain things along the way. And along the way, you make sense of whatever it is that you're encountering. And this, as a little child, could be hunger, and you make sense of that, and there's a meaning associated with it, and there's certain actions such as crying gets attention, and you get fed, and that's what works. You go a bit further on, and you fall over, and you cut your knee, and you cry, and you get attention for it, and then you know that if you get hurt, then you do that behavior, and you get attention, and the thing gets resolved. And so along the way then we have all sorts of occurrences. Every second of the day and the night there's occurrences that are happening, and we make sense of those. Some of them are not worth remembering, others are very indelibly etched in our brain. And so life goes on, and whenever a situation arises, we always go to our reference first. So we say, has this happened before? And if we say, yes, it has happened before, we don't always discern the fact that this happened when I was 4 years old, and now I'm 30 years old, and maybe things have changed and maybe we have better choices. We go back to that 4-year-old position, and something happens. We get hurt in some way, and so we start crying or being a victim to it, and we get attention, or at least we used to get attention. Maybe we don't now. The point being is that we have a reference system that is going back to our journey. So wherever we are right now is a product of the journey that we've taken throughout our lifetime. And who knows what happens within the genetic parcels that have been passed down in terms of those memories being stimulated by today's environment as well. But even if we just restrict it to our current life, the memory of the past very often influences our future. It always influences our right now. So we do have a point where we can redecide. We can make distinctions in right now as to whether that stimulus from the past, that idea from the journey, that irritation, that event that occurred us angst, that event that occurred that created a perception of lack, of loneliness, of isolation, of what you name it, any idea that we have about ourselves that we've encoded and we've constantly run over the time because we keep running them unless we question them. Those occurrences then create our identity. So you are exactly as you are as a result of the identity that you've created for yourself by virtue of all the perceptions of your occurrences from your journey, from your past history. So it's rather daunting, isn't it, to consider that you are maybe not even having volition to a large degree, that you are having a knee-jerk reaction to everything that occurs, and you go back to your resources around, is this good, is this bad, did I do it before and survive, did I not do it, did I do it and didn't survive in some way, what are the distinctions that I'm making now? So that's what we find, is that with that awareness, then we can start to bring what's happening right now into perspective and start to break it apart in terms of, is it useful? It once was, obviously, because we're still here. That is it useful now? And it may not be useful now. And that's the criteria that one could take to any given circumstance. Someone cuts in front of you in the car. Now, we can make sense of that by, that kid in school always used to push in front of me. Now, we don't actually think it in these terms, but that's how the memory goes to it. It goes to, that kid that used to push in front of me in the tuck shop line at school, and I used to get really irritated, and I ended up having a big fight with him, and he beat me. So I'm just going to be, from now on, I get irritated when someone pushes in front of me, but I don't have the whole picture. It doesn't always come up, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years later, but the feeling does. And so someone cuts in front of you in traffic, then what do? There's a process for that. There's a way in which you can observe that and be aware of it. And as soon as you start being aware of it, you're actually starting to break that cycle. And it's like, oh, isn't this interesting? This person cut in front of me and I'm feeling angry. Now, the question would be, if we stay in the awareness of it, isn't that fascinating? I wonder what that person's intent was. Did that person wake up this morning and get out of bed and say, okay, I'm going to go down the street and I'm going to cut off John Brown, Susie Smith in traffic to really make her angry or him angry? No, of course not. There's a situation that occurred that person cut in front of you, and then you brought meaning to it. We bring meaning to it. We all bring meaning to stuff in our lives. The question is that meaning useful? If that meaning is, say, for example, if you're in a car race and someone cuts in front of you in a car race, it could well be an incentive to get angry, to get to really get on your mettle and to get that adrenaline flowing and to pass that particular person. That may well be a useful scenario for that particular stimulus. That in a situation, you're driving down a highway or a freeway and someone does that, then is it useful? Is it useful for you to increase your cortisol, to increase your angst within your neurology, to put yourself on the defensive just because someone did something that was what they did? So the question being, assess your journey, be aware of your journey. And what I suggest that you do over the next few days is just notice the areas in your life or in your business where you give up on what you believe would be ideal as a human being, because you're finding this reactivity that's coming in that obviously is coming from somewhere. And I would suggest would be coming from somewhere throughout your journey. So rather than try and psychoanalyze it and go back and figure out, well, this is because that, just be observant of it. That's all that you need to do. There's no making sense of it. It's simply observing it and asking yourself, what's the outcome here? Is this a useful behavior for me to be doing? And you'll find that in most cases, unless you've got the extreme, such as the car race I just mentioned, in most cases it's like, well, no, not really. So let that person cut in, let the person do what he needs to do or she needs to do, and go about your life in a state of creating your future from your current behaviors, because you're on this journey. Your current behaviors right now are going to forge how you react and how you behave into your future as well. So know that this too shall pass. This too will always blend into your history. The question is, how are you going to shape it for your history? And one other fact about this is that when we do take an action of allowing the history to not run who we are, then we affect our history. We affect our whole history. It changes everything. And likewise, it changes our future. So being aware of this, being aware that you are on a journey, that the journey is a process, that the journey is something that will pass and is always passing, and it has a stimulus for us, which has given us who we are. And by being aware of that and being present in it and not allowing our history to run us, then life becomes so much easier, so much more fun. So think about that. Enjoy your journey. I'm Dr. Mark Postles. We'll catch you on the next podcast. Let us show you how to fire your brain in ways that serve you so that you can be confident, connected, and bring joy and passion into what you do every day. Get a free copy of my book, The Innate Model. Go to theinnatemodel.com/free book.